One of the things I often talk with my students and peers about is the notion of the separation of church and state. And one of the things I want to make clear to those with whom I speak about this is that this statement, the separation of church and state, is nowhere to be found in our Constitution or Bill of Rights. There is a free exercise clause and what's known as the Establishment Clause in the Bill of Rights. But nowhere in there are the words separation of church and state. Those words come from a personal letter by Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptists, who were concerned that the Congregational Church was going to become the national church of America. To which Thomas Jefferson, in this personal and very short letter, assured them this would not be the case, that there would be a wall that was high and impregnable, making this separation. But one thing is for certain. There's nowhere in the Constitution, or even in his statement, Thomas Jefferson that is, to the Danbury Baptists, that religion should have no influence on politics or policy or laws. Now, why should we believe that Jefferson did not have any intention of relegating religion to the private sphere, permanently alienating it from the public square in politics? Well, first of all, Thomas Jefferson himself believed in God, though he was not a Christian, and many people, even in his day, criticized him for this strongly. But he did have a strong belief in God. He did have a strong belief that morals and morality came from this God. And he did believe that God gave us our rights. The founding document of the United States, that is, the Declaration of Independence from England, states that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And thus he has invoked the God of nature, as he calls it, to grant us these rights. He suggests that it is from him that these things come, from which these things come. And so he in no way alienates God or religion in general from the notion of politics and the idea of rights. Moreover, Thomas Jefferson often argued that the schools should have open debates about religion in order to come to the true religion. Now, of course, Thomas Jefferson was hoping that the Unitarian Church would eventually become the national religion of America. But that didn't happen. And but in all of the debates, what we have a tendency to do is want to focus in on what supports our cause. And many of the separationists today have used the term wall of separation that were penned by Thomas Jefferson in order to suggest that the original intent of the Establishment Clause, as Thomas Jefferson would have seen it, was to permanently separate religion, not just the ecclesiastical bodies of churches, that is, church governments, but actually religious concepts from the public sphere. Now, the problem with that is that if that were true, the Declaration of Independence would be unconstitutional. Moreover, the abolitionist movement would have been unconstitutional, given that these abolitionists primarily believed that God had endowed the slaves, that is, the black race, just as God had endowed the white race, because we are all humans, and all humans are created equal, and thus, if we're all created equal, we should be treated equally. And thus, the abolitionist movement would have been deemed unconstitutional, which this is an argument many did make at the time. But nonetheless, the original intent of Thomas Jefferson can be found in his own works when he discusses these things. And it was not to alienate religion in general, because he used religion in formulating his form of government, that is, and the foundation of rights. And we could also see that Thomas Jefferson did not believe that we should not discuss these things in public. And this is not to say I'm advocating for a public or state church, but far from being the separationist that people think Thomas Jefferson was, he was much more amiable towards the dialogue between religious citizens and policymakers.